Following a recent video celebrating Justice League Unlimited's top 10 episodes, this video celebrates the top 10 episodes of its predecessor series entitled Justice League Not Particularly Unlimited, more commonly known as Justice League. Given that most episodes were components in 2 or 3 part storylines, all multi-part installments will be treated as single episodes in a list that begins with Star-Crossed, a 3-part story arc devoted to Earth's invasion courtesy of League member Hawkgirl's species, the Thanagarians, allows an engaging increase in suspense, pleasing organic character growth via varied evolving dynamics. Clearly considered moral complexity, energetic action, and grand world building due to the careful use of both intergalactic and more pedestrian Earth-based settings. The length, as with most 3-part stories, slightly limits casual viewing opportunities, though aside from this the only other flaw is the faint blandness of the antagonists, with the possible slight exception of the Thanagarian general, who I know isn't actually called Brotalic, though I'm not sure I share this fragment of knowledge with the characters, because it really does sound like they're calling him bro sometimes, despite most of them being his enemies. In fairness though, this does support the previous point about moral complexity. The brave and the bold. After a previously secret Simian city is discovered, the Flash and Green Lantern battle against an evil genius gorilla. Who hasn't? I haven't. Not recently, anyway. The focused narrative places necessary rewarding emphasis on specific humorous character dynamics while exploring an intriguingly absurd premise, offering credible tension, suitable voice performances, and enticing, justifiably experimental visuals. Occasional pacing issues lead to certain important plot points feeling rushed and other more trivial elements feeling laboured. And if this flaw didn't exist, the episode would rank even higher. Though to be fair, it's already on the top 10, so if it wants higher praise than that, then I think it's being ungrateful. I've never described an episode of a cartoon as being ungrateful before. Well, not recently anyway. A Night of Shadows. The Demon Etrigan contacts the Justice League for assistance in thwarting the plans of Morgan Le Fay in a tale rife with capably implemented fascinating mythical Arthurian elements, colourful visuals, gripping character drama, an explorative tone due to the skillful showcasing of various settings and genres, and exciting action. Etrigan's unpleasantness, which in fairness should be expected of a demon, is occasionally somewhat grating, and certain confusing character choices are made, which are never justified or explained within the story, though these minor weaknesses are generally overshadowed by the aforementioned strengths. Legends. Several Justice Leaguers enter a parallel universe inhabited by heavily caricatured heroes and villains, in an adventure comprised of consistent, original, self-aware comedy that affectionately and accurately acknowledges the eternal importance of Silver Age comics, while subtly building a creative, tragic, captivating mystery with a satisfying conclusion. Certain plot holes exist even after the reveal, and some of the most interesting ideas are slightly underexplored, though ultimately, this barely tarnishes the overall quality of the episodes in my opinion, unless you're watching the parallel universe version of this video, in which case I probably hate this episode, though I've probably got more fans in the parallel universe you're watching this video from. Maybe even as many as 3. Comfort and joy. The lives of the Justice League during the holiday season are shown, resulting in relaxed, playful, productive character development. Of particular personal appeal is the gleeful and generous nature of Superman, which is occasionally lost within other episodes, and imaginative situations. This naturally moving, wholesome, succinct episode, which deserves further praise for being the only single-part episode in the series, like several other titles, avoids featuring the entire league. This is usually wise, however, the absence of Batman and Wonder Woman is sorely missed in this case, since the idea of showcasing their lives during the festive period invites several interesting opportunities. Presumably the episode lacked the time required to do this. It should have been a 2-part episode like most of the others. What sort of idiot would ever praise the fact that this is the only single-part episode of the series, which deserves further praise for being the only single-part episode in the series? Let me rephrase. What sort of idiot would say something like that apart from me. The list's midpoint has officially been reached, and therefore 3 honourable mentions will be highlighted. DCAU aficionado and channel ally Serum Lake has charitably provided contributions yet again. Luke will discuss my honourable mentions because he, much like Mark Corrigan, is an honourable man. Maybe only 2 viewers will get that reference. But maybe I'll only get 2 viewers, making that a 100% success rate. Anyway, Luke, your turn now.
First up on Connor's honorary mentions list, we have The Enemy Below. Featuring the return of the DCAU Aquaman after he was last seen looking distinctly less beardy in the Superman the Animated Series episode A Fish Story, we are introduced to the Atlantean monarchy. This storyline has more political twists and familial betrayal than an episode of Game of Thrones. Do people still know what Game of Thrones is? Do we still like that? I don't know, I've lost track. Aquaman is a far cry from his earlier Super Friends incarnation. Yes, he can still talk to fish, but he is hostile towards the Justice League and the surface world as a whole, wanting nothing to do with us landlubbers. When he is persuaded to speak at the United Nations, there is an attempt on his life by the assassin Deadshot. But who could be responsible for this heinous attack? The American government, perhaps? After all, Aquaman did confiscate one of their nuclear submarines. Or maybe it was a consortium of fossil fuel companies. Aquaman had little tolerance for their pollution of the oceans, after all. Or could it be someone far closer to the King of Atlantis? Yes, it was. It's a solid episode and has a really shocking moment in it, with Aquaman slicing off his own hand to free himself from his shackles and rescue his infant son. If there's one thing to take away from this episode, it's Aquaman is not to be trifled with. Next we have Secret Society. They say that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Well, if that's the case, then Gorilla Grodd really must love the Justice League. In Secret Society, Grodd responds to the rise of the Justice League by creating his own villainous super team consisting of Sinestro, Giganta, the Shade, Parasite, Killer Frost, and Clayface. I really like how this episode makes multiple references to DCAU continuity, from Clayface's desperate attempts to restore his humanity, the Shade's previous unsuccessful supervillain team-ups, and Grodd's disastrous prior brain injury. Each of these villains were selected because they were capable threats to specific members of the Justice League. Sinestro's power ring rivals Green Lanterns, Grodd's psychic abilities can take down the Martian Manhunter, Killer Frost could freeze the Flash in his place, and so on. It's also a fascinating insight into what makes the Justice League work, and how when they are properly synergized, they are completely unstoppable. Every team has room for one crazy loner, but when the entire team acts that way thanks to Grodd's subtle psychic manipulations, things fall apart. Conversely, the downfall of the Society of Supervillains comes from the fact that they all have their own selfish motivations, and they don't really like each other that much. And hey, speaking of continuity, those training robots sure do look familiar to viewers of a certain Batman Beyond spin-off cartoon. Finally, we have The Terror Beyond. Now, this story is not some sort of crossover with the world of Batman Beyond, that would come much later. No, instead it's a story about the Justice League teaming up with Aquaman, Dr. Fate and Solomon Grundy to defeat a horrific elder god from coming through to our dimension. One of the cool things about this story is that it's a very clear nod to the classic Marvel Comics super team The Defenders, with Dr. Fate acting as Doctor Strange, Aquaman as Namor, Hawkgirl as Nighthawk, and Solomon Grundy as the Incredible Hulk. They make this pretty clear at the start of the episode when a General Thunderbolt Ross lookalike shows up to try to take down Grundy. It's pretty uncommon for a superhero cartoon to feature cosmic horror, and that was one of the strengths of Justice League. The variety of characters allowed a diverse range of stories to be told. However, the real standout from this episode is the characterization of Solomon Grundy. He went from a sometimes comical lumbering foe to a genuinely sympathetic figure. Grundy learns that he is the reanimated corpse of a gangster murdered in the 1920s, whose body had been dumped in a mystical swamp just outside of Gotham. As such, he doesn't have a soul. His desire to be reunited with his soul drove him to fight harder, literally climbing inside the head of the elder god Icthulu and tearing his brain apart. And the final moments of the episode, where a triumphant Grundy lays dying and asks Hawkgirl if his soul is waiting for him on the other side, always breaks my heart. Hawkgirl is a rational woman of science. She doesn't believe in souls, but she can't bring herself to let Grundy down in his final moments. Excuse me for a moment, I seem to have something in my eyes.
Thanks, Luke. No, I'm not crying. I'm just producing water from my eyes due to being overcome by emotion. Anyway, on with the list. The Savage Time. The Justice League are transported to an alternative World War II in which they face the wrath of Vandal Savage. The historical elements add a surprising sense of realism to proceedings and a pleasing contrast to the exciting, fantastical elements. Meanwhile, captivatingly dramatic, richly varied, character-driven tales, Green Lantern proving his worth without his ring, and Wonder Woman finding potential love being of particular interest, appealingly combine in an appropriately thrilling, unique display of action, bold, tasteful embrace of darkness, legitimate warmth, and clear, controlled imagination. As another 3-part story, this entry occasionally feels somewhat bloated, and the time travel elements are illogical even by typical time travel standards, though the strengths far outweigh either of these weaknesses. Only a dream. Thanks to advanced technology, a prisoner is able to enter and corrupt the dreams of the Justice League. Nothing good ever comes of technology. No, actually, this video was made with technology, which proves that point, actually. This enormously inventive premise is explored with meticulous productivity, allowing for otherwise unachievable, enriching bursts of character growth, situation-specific visual splendour, distinctive sustained peril, and subtle effective humour. The villain's resemblance to Skeletor is a definite distraction, though in a Blu-ray commentary it's revealed that Dr. Destiny was driven to villainy due to his disappointment with 1987's Masters of the Universe movie, and decided to dress as the antagonist in some form of ironic symbolism. That isn't true. But it might be if you're watching this video in a parallel universe. Wildcards. The Joker televises his attempts to destroy Vegas with assistance from genetically enhanced government experiments, the Royal Flush Gang. The commitment to a unique, deeply immersive narrative device highlights the exceptionally palpable jeopardy, allows for defined characterization and purposeful use of an impressively vast cast, endlessly engrossing fight sequences, enticingly surreal, plot-relevant imagery, enthusiastic voice performances, typically from the likes of Mark Hamill as the Clown Prince of Crime and the late great Arlene Sorkin as Harley Quinn, a powerful undercurrent of tragedy, and heartening, organic, romantic developments. Not between Joker and Harley. Occasionally, the illusion that this entire event is occurring live is disrupted, though these moments of disruption are necessary to introduce important story elements. Hereafter. If anyone wants to talk about this episode with me, you know where I'll be. I haven't got plans to go anywhere, so I'll probably be here after. Following a dangerous battle, the world adjusts to the loss of Superman, while Superman adjusts to being transported into a barren dimension in which he's powerless. A deeply honest, sensitive meditation on grief and redemption ensues, while intriguing science fiction elements welcome levity, primarily courtesy of invaluable appearances from Lobo, the main man, and distinctive battles add energy and drama to proceedings, with mature pensive scenes devoted to humanizing the Man of Steel in an extremely valid manner. A slight criticism is that opportunities to celebrate Superman's more playful side are occasionally ignored, though understandable reasons for why this approach was avoided do exist. A better world. The Justice League encounter their more ruthless counterparts from a parallel universe, possibly the one that you're watching this video from, an immaculately presented, complete, deeply cerebral, gripping, innovative tale, bravely and accessibly examining thought-provoking, applicable themes of authoritarianism and desperation, while subtle bursts of appealing comedy, contemplative character drama, pleasing character designs, and authentic dialogue form a virtually flawless adventure that potentially served as the basis for the Injustice games and comic series. There are certain moments of faint ambiguity that may benefit from being communicated more clearly, though this is such a pedantic criticism that I'll remove it on the edit. I didn't remove it on the edit, did I? And the list has officially concluded. DCAU fans are encouraged to consult any of the material on Serum Lake's channel, or indeed our previous collaborations, as well as to comment, revealing their top 10 Justice League episodes. Thanks for your contributions, Serum Lake, and thanks viewers for watching. If I don't see you next time, I'll assume you're trying to find a Skeletor costume. You might need to get arrested and convince a scientist to let you test a dream machine first. That's meant to be the song Martian Manhunter sings in Comfort and Joy. If you didn't recognise it, you are forgiven, because I barely recognised it and I did it.